What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Let me say that one more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. I like to party with the people. I've been partying with the people. Oh, well, before I go any further, today on the program, David Eastman. Who's David Eastman? Well, if you're not looking at the video version of this podcast, well, you won't see his face right there. David Eastman. You're going to get to know about him in the next few minutes. I'll give you a hint. Say yes, do nothing. There, that's it. That's all I'm giving you right now. This week's shows, yes, I've been breaking out. We've been breaking out. The economy is starting to reopen again. You know, some good, some bad points to that. But beyond that, the RAB in Conway, Arkansas, that's where I was last night. And that's where I'll be back to next Friday night. It's been going very well. I mean, I've been sanitizing the microphones between singers, the video dance party, karaoke jam, and I give, there's wipes, there's sanitizing, hand sanitizer, and when you come out of the bath, you should be washing your hands anyway when you use the restroom. How about that? You should have been doing that anyway. We're all adults here, baby. But for the most part, it's people of all ages, from in their 20s to all the way to their 60s and 70s. Just having a good time, full bar, kitchen's open, pool tables. They have a pool tournament that goes on there every Friday night. Now that's been going on back to full swing probably for the last couple of weeks. But previous to that, it was just yours truly on the karaoke show. And the pool tables were there. And the capacity is about at half. It's a big, giant room. So I'm very excited to be back at the RAB in Conway, Arkansas. And I'm booking lots of weddings. Oh, man, lots of parties are coming up. I guess I booked 2 in October yesterday. So, we're expecting that by October, we'll have figured some things out. I know we're going to stay with these wearing masks and protecting ourselves a little bit. So, do that. If wearing masks make you feel better, do it, definitely. And I know that there's research and science on one side or the other. So if a place requires you to wear a mask, wear a mask. If it makes them feel better, hey. If it makes you feel better, hey, wear a mask. What's it hurting anybody? Make sure you clean your mask. I wear a handkerchief, so I make sure that I have several handkerchiefs. So I guess a bandana is the. It's not really a handkerchief. It's not something for. I guess you could wipe your face with it if you want to. I'm losing train of thought here. Why? I don't know. It's Saturday afternoon as I record this here in Conway, Arkansas. Tonight I have a show in Heber Springs at the VFW. Now that is a huge room. First time I did that place, that room that they have in the back is made for partying. It's been newly redesigned last year. The walls are red. The dance floor is all Pica floor with a big logo for the VFW right in the middle. The stage. Oh, for any bands that want to go play at the Heber Springs VFW, that stage was made for you. It's got risers, one riser on one side, the stage is set up on multi levels, so you can have a guitarist over here and a bass player over there, and a drummer down the middle, and then there's a runway for the singer to go, wander around and work the crowd. So really, this is a place that's made for entertainment. So what I do is I set up right down the middle. I put the speaker, one on each riser, and then right in front of me is the singer. They're the stars of the show at the Heber Springs VFW. So that's tonight at 8. I guess I'll be there set up 8:30, but I think it's really running from 9 to 1. So I'm stoked to be there back in the Heber Springs VFW. It's called Heber Springs VFW in Heber Springs, Arkansas, but I think it's really in Tumbling Shoals, the next town over. So you'll find it. And the marquee Dan, one of the nice things, they have this nice marquee, and I know I'm not supposed to be that egotistical. I am a little bit, okay? But they put my name in lights, and I know they probably do that for every band that comes up there. But when I'm driving up, driving up 25, and I get real close, and there on the left, there's my name, Keys Dan. I think they wrote it Dan Keys before, but that's fine. It's still me. They took the time to put my name in lights, and that makes an entertainer feel more welcome. Feel like, hey, you really want them there. That's cool. Speaking of entertainers, yes, you've seen his face on the video. If you're watching the video version of this, if you're listening to the audio today on the program, David Eastman. I'm going to get him on the Skype, and I'm going to Skype him from the UK, and we're going to find out more about David Eastman. Skyping David Eastman now. All right. David Eastman, Say Yes, Do Nothing. I guess that's an interesting name for a band. I like it. I like it a lot. It's Keys Dan with the What Makes You Famous podcast. What is going on over there?
It's a lot is going on. I mean, what can you say, right? It's hard to keep up with everything. I mean, ask me in 5 minutes, and it'll all change.
Well, you're probably right. You're probably right. 2020 was supposed to be the year of clarity and happiness and true vision and things are going to happen. 2020 is excellent. Blah.
I think we have true vision. I think we're seeing reality.
Oh, for sure. And I hope on the other side we come out as better people, and that's my hope. But all right, let's start with you. For the people that don't know who you are, who is a David Eastman?
Well, us David Eastmans, we live in London, UK. Lived here in Europe for about 12 years. I'm from the United States. Born in Seattle, lived in the Midwest, Terre Haute, Indiana, and for about 6 years and all over. And now we have a band here in London called Say Yes, Do Nothing, just like the shirt here. And we've been gigging and playing and releasing singles now for about a year and a half. So we're really glad to be with you.
Man, I like that a lot. From Seattle in the United States of America, but you moved to the UK. Well, let's start with Seattle. How long did you spend in Seattle?
Just long enough and then leave right before grunge became big, which really sucked. All my friends were seeing Nirvana in small clubs, and I was sitting in Terre Haute, Indiana, getting the mud out of my hair. So, and then was there through the Bobby Knight years of IU, and then went on to do humanitarian work. So I went on to do the Peace Corps, and I've been doing aid work ever since.
Man, okay. There's a whole lot. There's quite a few layers to a David Eastman.
Short attention span.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I put my finger in a lot of pots, and I enjoy that a lot, immensely. But all right, I want to go into those layers. Okay, you left. I'm guessing around 90, maybe, or so.
Yeah.
That's about the time when the music scene in Seattle was starting to get huge.
Yeah, man.
Okay, it sounds like there's a cut that I'm scratching at. I'm starting to remove the scab on that sore.
yeah, and it hurts. It does. And actually, a good friend of mine ended up in a band that hit it quite big called Harvey Danger. They had that song that goes da 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 da. Right? Everybody. Yeah. So I went to Indiana and he hit it big in a rock band and toured the world and
Dude, I just played Flagpole City last night at a club gig that I did. I DJ parties and I was doing 90s and I said, well, let me play some. I said, you guys want 90s hip hop or just like anything from the 90s? And they go, yeah, no problem. And that came up on my list. Flagpole City. Well,
let me tell you, he's a great guy. His name is Evan Salt. He actually played drums, I think, on one of the tracks you're gonna play if you play Grace of God. And he's in a great band now called Sleepy Kitty, and people should check him out.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Good deal, man. Learning a little bit more about David Eastman, and we haven't even got into the band that you're in now so much. We kind of glossed over it. We're doing the broad strokes, but I'm taking you back to a small David Eastman. And growing up in Seattle, I mean, what was it pre-grunge? How did it feel? What was the vibe like?
It rains. It's one reason why I like London. And there isn't much to do but be angry and listen to Metallica. It made a lot of sense why that music came out of there. There wasn't much to do but play in your garage. And people back then, it was logging and fishing, and it was before Microsoft. It's before the California people moved up. So people, there was a reason why they wore flannel shirts. It's actually because they were warm, and that's what loggers wore. So, for Kurt Cobain and all those guys to come out of that with that anger, it was a bit like a Midwest at the time. It was somewhat rural. It was considered a corner, and a lot of homelessness would pass through that area. You had a migration route between California and Washington of homeless people who would go north in the summer and south in the winter, and so that's where that term Skid Row came from. That Skid Row was a street in Seattle, and homeless people would live there, and they would stay at a YMCA. Skid Row was originally a skidding road, but I think there was a YMCA there as well. And actually, again, that Grace of God song is about when I was spending time with homeless people in Seattle. So, yeah, a lot of Seattle stories.
Yeah, well, Skid Row. Explain that again. What is a skidding row?
So when you skid a log, right? You cut down a tree, you skid it on a chain with hooks in it, and you skid it down to the shore or a canal boat, and then take it out. So Skid Row was originally where you dragged the logs through Seattle, and when it was what it was, and took on that name.
Man, the etymology of names and how things come about. But man, you're teaching me things right now. I had no idea. I figured Skid Row was probably New York. Well, hey, let's go to the Bowery. And then here it is, having to do with logging. Okay, you're teaching me a bit, David Eastman. And so you've always been interested in humanitarian things and helping people helping people.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate being on your show because you're doing that, giving people exposure, and it's kind of the same kind of thing. I mean, so I was in the Peace Corps in the former Soviet Union, and was sitting across from a Russian, and he pointed his finger at me, and he said, about 2 years ago, I would have killed you. And it was true. This was 96, so it was just a few years after Perestroika, and we actually became best of friends, but it was a really interesting time to be there. And then, I did aid work in various countries like Darfur, Afghanistan, mostly war zones. And now I work with an aid organization here in London.
Oh, well, you haven't stopped doing...
I haven't stopped. It's my day job.
Humanitarian work. Oh, that's fantastic, man. I mean, I'm okay. You say that I'm doing a similar work here, and primarily I'm sitting in the chair talking into a microphone. but I do appreciate talking to people and exposing people and people helping people and all that kind of thing. And yes, I have a local group called the Coho that I get to be involved in, the City of Hope outreach, and they do a lot of work with the homeless. And that's just down the street here in Conway, Arkansas. So shout out to them. So yes, we also.
So what do you do? What do you do with them?
Oh, well, I mean, mostly when they have parties, I help to entertain them. That's the primary thing. But but otherwise, I talk to some of their leaders and their management and kind of get the word out there. I know that they've had fundraisers for different different groups that have been put to the wayside through various was it like there was one, the Brookside, that's a community here in Conway, Arkansas, that was completely, there was 100 families, and then they lost their lease, so all 100 families were put on the streets within 30 days. You have 30 days to get out, move your trailers, and that's it was probably about I guess 100 trailers, 100 families, 100 trailers, and they were put on the street. So we had a fundraiser for them. I provided the music and the microphones and all that thing, and we had a lot of the community get together. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about communities, be it large or small, is getting together. And one of the things that we're learning here in this, I'll say COVID-19 coronavirus lockdown quarantine is, we all need to get together and appreciate each other, and we're learning more who the heroes actually are. not necessarily the sports stars, but maybe the doctors and the lawyers. I mean, doctors and lawyers, no, the doctors and the nurses and the fire troops and those the like are the ones that are helping to keep us together. And I don't know, there's a whole lot of people that need to get together rather than broken apart. And I noticed on your Facebook page, you do keep up with a lot of the politics, not just in London, the UK, but also around the world, and more specifically the US, where I'm located at. And you're keeping in touch with all that. I mean, what do you think about what's going on?
Yeah. Oh man, it's one of the songs that we recorded and put out was that cover of For What It's Worth, and it was because I was seeing so many of these images of the violence going back and forth, and reminding me of those Kent State massacres, and the violence around the protests back in the '60s, and here we were back in another situation where Americans battling Americans again, and it's hard to watch. And then seeing it start to spring, first there was compassion for it, sympathy for it outside of the United States, and some more peaceful protests. But those heated up in London and other countries as well. So it's sad to see how quickly that anger becomes physical. One thing that's happening is same as in the United States, is that they're pulling down statues. One of the first ones was thrown into the Thames. And the river that's in London. So I do have a lot of sympathy watching what's happening, but it's with COVID, I imagine a lot of your listeners, it's hard to know what to do in the midst of all that, because it's not like you want to walk out in the street and join a protest. You have to be pretty committed, I would think, to do that. And I just hope that it isn't going to exacerbate the situation that we have. And we have, the so-called second wave, and then more frustration. So it's an interesting time to be alive again.
Well, and then social media is compounding the problem.
Oh my!
Because you can get all kinds of confirmation bias. I got friends. I don't wear a mask generally when I'm, of course, by myself and out in my car. But if I'm amongst people and you want me to wear a mask, I'll keep a kerchief with me. But if you look at social media, you'll have one study that'll say, hey, you need to wear this mask because it's really going to help you. And then you'll have another study that say masks are bunk. So there's confirmation there in that respect. But I did see that.
And do you buy a mask if you know that it might have been needed by a medical professional?
Oh,
I think that was a big part of the beginning of the pandemic, was that the materials weren't out there. In the work that I do, we support programs in South Sudan, Afghanistan, Sudan, these countries where it's already pretty resource scarce as it is. But then what about these guys working in clinics who are day to day exposed, and it's hard enough, and they can't get the masks that they need, So I think that also helped probably to contribute to the spread, was that people didn't have the information, didn't have the resources that they needed to prevent that upward, climb of transmission. So I think now we've got a sense of what we can do. Personally, I think it's whether we're going to follow through. It's summer. It's easy to say, well, we've gotten this far. I think I'll go for a picnic. It's so tempting. You miss your friends, and that's hard in London as well, because people are cooped up in little apartments.
Well, I agree, and as we're opening economies here in the U.S., I've actually been able to DJ a gig at one of the bigger places that I go to. They're at half capacity, and I've been doing that on Friday nights for the last 4 weeks, and I consider myself lucky because for 2 months previous to that, I was cooped up myself and wondering, about financial the financial burden of not having that extra cheese on Friday nights and Saturdays. I have a gig tonight over at the VFW in Heber Springs, and that's a huge room. And I'm sure that they'll have precautions. And I've been wiping microphones down, So there's, and I do want to take you to the music that you did record, and I was looking at your YouTube, and there is the video for that, For What It's Worth, and it's just it is timely and fantastic.
Thanks. Thank you.
And it's under the David Eastman YouTube.
Yeah, that's just my. But it's But if you look up "Say Yes, Do Nothing" for what it's worth, you can find it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
on our "Say Yes, Do Nothing" channel.
It is on that channel as well. Okay, I did
Mhm.
subscribe to the David Eastman channel, but I mean, I know that there's so much to you, and you are. I'm feeling the weight of the world coming off of you. I can hear it, man, because you are thoughtful and you do. Okay. For those that are watching that are just listening to the audio portion of this, I want you to go to my YouTube and check out the video because I want to address the Space Invaders video game that's sitting right behind him, and this is giving me childhood memories of wasting whole Saturdays and Sundays
Oh yeah,
pumping quarters into that machine. Is that an actual working Space Invaders cabinet?
that was my birthday present last year. Yeah, yeah.
Who
And
loves
it's
you,
not just
man?
Space Invaders.
Who gave you
Got my
Space
wife.
Invaders? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
and my birthday's next week, and I think she's freaking out because there's no way you could top this, right? I mean,
No,
the bar is set too high.
no, that is absolutely correct. And big ups to you having such
Right?
a wonderful wife. That's fantastic. You got love in your life. Oh man,
Yeah.
you know it's
Yeah, no,
it's
and it has 6,000 games on it. It's
six.
actually a laptop is set up inside, has all the old games, Asteroids, I mean, everything. It's got Sega, it's got shoot 'em up games. It's fantastic. Yeah, so we are actually pretty well set up for lockdown because
Yeah.
we can just play this.
Oh yeah, you can waste all day in there. But okay, so the job that you do during the day, and this is I know we're flash forwarding. I want to get into how you got into music. Was that back in Seattle, or was that Indiana, or was that further on down the road? Let's
I
go
always
with
did
that.
it. I was in the Peace Corps in Kazakhstan, in the former Soviet Union, and the Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love. You spend a lot of time by yourself. There was one point where I was lying on the floor, kind of creating a kind of etch-a-sketch by staring up at the flies flying circles, and I would kind of trace their path with a pencil, doing that for like 3 hours. I mean, there's just nothing to do. So I wrote a lot of songs and kind of got going at that time, and then returned to America, and I was in a band in Hollywood called Breach, which had we had an album that was called DIY Album of the Year. Then I went back to doing aid work in the field, and when 9/11 happened, I was in Afghanistan, and so that's where I've spent most of my time, is in the field, as they say.
Man, so
in between. So in Hollywood, I did a lot of stuff, and then coming to London, had more time, and been writing a lot of songs. And there are so many talented people in London; it's just remarkable. And everybody's about 3 degrees of separation from Mick Jagger here. It's remarkable. My daughter's school, Ronnie Wood, his granddaughter went to that school. So to raise money for the school, we bought a print by Ronnie Wood of Keith Richards. Another person designed sets for the Rolling Stones. I mean, it's just remarkable. Everybody's like this close to the Rolling Stones here. So the media scene, the bands, it's still going.
Oh, the Stones. I love the Stones. I can't believe they're still doing it after all these years.
Oh man,
Fred and Barney.
and doing it well.
Fred and Barney. Those Stones. No. I figured they got to be a national treasure there. They've been going for so long. My goodness.
Yeah.
But oh man. So I mean, you've tasted dirt all over the world. Being in the Middle East on 9/11. Okay, I know how the feeling was here in the United States.
Yeah.
I was in Miami, Florida at the time, and I remember on television just watching the buildings fall and fall and fall, and then all the flags got put up on people's cars and houses, and U.S. flags. But then you're in the Middle East, the people that we focused our hatred towards. Ooh, those buildings got knocked down. All those people are the bad guys now. And you're amongst those bad guys, quote unquote. They're not bad guys. They're not all bad guys. There's a few bad apples.
How can they be?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they all want the same things
right.
that we do. Roof over the head, belly, food in the
Even
belly,
more
money
so.
in the pocket. But tell me what was the view over there in 9/11 2001?
So this was before mobile phones. So I was only reachable by satellite phone. And I would make a call like every other day. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we would talk. I racked up about $36,000 in phone bills that year. So I didn't know. And I was in a meeting. So I had gone, and I was the only foreigner that went with this team of Afghan aid workers. And we had set up clinics in a huge refugee camp in Western Afghanistan in a desert, where they call it the 90 days of wind because it's constantly windy, sand in your eyes. So we were having a meeting, and someone knocked on the door, and it was another French aid worker who said, they've, what did he say? They blew up Wall Street. and I did, whether he was right or not, you just get these chills because it's just like every disaster or Tom Clancy movie you've ever seen, that shiver of truth that something has gone wrong. And they looked at me saying, well, and so they knew that I needed to get out, but they also knew that this would be the end of the Taliban, and they were pretty happy because finally the Americans were it's almost like Pearl Harbor, right? Finally the Americans were get involved and get rid of those Taliban that were not allowing them to even play cards, or have pictures of cats in their house. So, but they, instead of running back to Kabul to their families and, knowing the bombing was coming, they waited for me to be able to take a flight out, and for days, and at their own risk and at their family's risk. And I did get out. And then I was in Pakistan starting to really get a sense of, the trauma that America was experiencing. But I then went back after 9/11. I snuck across the border from north of Afghanistan and across the border, pretending I was a journalist so I could set up aid services again. And when I caught up with them again, as the front line was moving, I saw the guys, and they brought my sleeping bag to me. They had kept my sleeping bag with them all that time that I'd left behind because I couldn't carry it on the plane, and handed it to me when they hugged me to say hello again. I mean, that's the kind of guys these were. So amazing loyalty and professionalism and toughness. I mean, hats off to them.
So were you ever in any danger? Did you ever feel like those first few
days? The danger I was in was my own darn fault. When I went, so when I was first there, the Taliban were in control, and they were the bosses. So it was almost like the mayor, or you basically would go and pay your respects, in order to have access to the refugee camp. They'd be sitting there cross-legged with an AK-47 across their lap, and drinking tea with you, and you drink the tea. But no, I was never in danger. In fact, one of them actually invited me to stay with him when he knew I was leaving. He said, "I'll take care of you." And I was like, well, But when I went back after 9/11, when the front line was moving, then it was my own darn fault, because the Northern Alliance Afghans who were fighting the Taliban were really nervous, and we were in Northern Alliance territory, and I was out after curfew, for example, one night, bumping along in the Jeep, and all you could see was the light of the headlights in the dark. And suddenly this guy just jumps out from the bushes with his AK-47 pointing at our Jeep. And like an idiot, my first instinct was to hold my laptop in front of my face, like that would protect me from the bullets. So and minefield, stuff like that, where you kind of like putting yourself in a bad situation. But I was never threatened, never made to feel in danger. Always, knew that people were looking out for me. They're very, very careful people, and they also honor their guests. So the last thing they were going to let happen was let their guests get in trouble.
So in what year and in what capacity did you go back to the Middle East? What were you doing over there?
So it was 2001 that I was first there, and then 9/11, and then going back in basically October, and then through 2002. So it was that time, and then my wife said, "Come home," because she wanted me to come home. So that's why I went back to Los Angeles.
No, but you went back. I thought you went back to the Middle East after that.
So I've been Yes, but mostly I've worked in Africa. I worked in Darfur and Sudan. When you remember the Darfur crisis, when the villages, their huts were getting burned, stuff like that. So we worked there for a year. Various other African countries. Mostly, yeah, like I said, where there's a war zone, that's where we would try and set up services.
What kind of work are you doing over there, or what are you doing to help the people with it?
So in conflict, the infrastructures get blown up, or they don't have the supply chains they usually have with pharmacies and doctors having latex gloves and things like that. And or you may just have the doctors running for home, and you can't have a clinic out in the middle of nowhere because no one wants to be there, especially female health providers. So giving them a salary, giving them supplies, giving them advanced training, building the infrastructure, giving them the drugs, kind of reestablishing interim services until the government can pick them up again, if they ever can. A lot of these countries, have been in crisis for decades, whole generations living like that.
Okay, I'm before I started this podcast, I'm thinking I'm talking to David Eastman. He's a member of a band, but you're kind of like a superhero. You're kind of like
No.
I was a firefighter for 10 years, and I
Really?
felt that on a smaller scale down in Key Largo, Florida. But you've been all over the world running into burning
Well, I
buildings,
haven't run into
so
any
to
burning
speak.
buildings, man. So no,
I mean, but so to speak, you run into places that where falling bullets can actually hit you, and bombs and things like that. How close to any of that danger were you, or did you? Was your company, uh, good
Those are
enough to
bad
keep you secure?
situations. It's pretty rare that you would go into a bad situation. Like, you go into areas where there's conflict, and conflict can happen around you. If there's a firefight around you, it probably means that something went wrong. You didn't know, or you're just really bad luck. I think it'd be like being a firefighter. You wouldn't just. Probably the whole phrase "running into a burning building." I doubt you just run in, right? You probably
I
check it out.
walk in with a hose.
Walk in. Right.
Hey, that's burning
Exactly.
over there. Let's put the wet stuff on the red stuff. That kind of thing.
Right.
But that's putting out
Yes.
fires, literally. But you're putting out fires figuratively. I mean, and causing real change for people. And how big of a team goes into these places? Say Darfur or and does the restructuring? Is it like a management team that goes into to help out the locals to help themselves, teaching men to fish, I suppose?
So our organization, in something like a tsunami or an earthquake, a team of medical professionals, service providers would go in, doctor, nurses, and they are on our roster, but they're either paid or volunteers. So you'd have kind of like an A team go in and just help people. They might have engineers, they might have other people go with them, but that's the key core team. In situations like something like where there's been war for a really long time, yeah, you'll have a few core managers, but most of the people are from the area who are professionals in their own right. They're accountants or doctors or nurses or engineers, and you work with them and identify with the community what the community would like to fix, and hopefully you kind of give the community the resources and kind of support to do that. The best thing you can be is a consultant to work out yourself out of a job rather than just someone who's kind of replacing the government.
Oh man, I enjoy at this stage of the game, being 51 years old, you learn a few things, and what you should be doing at a certain age is teaching other people, and helping them up as you go up the ladder. I remember when I was in my 20s, and I think I've said this before, so if I'm boring anybody that's listening, that I don't remember helping people as much as I should have when I was in my late teens and maybe even my early 20s. By that time, I was already a firefighter, and I was, helping as many people as I could. But in my late teens, my thought to get up was just go and don't help anybody along the way. I don't think I helped as many people as I should have. I wasn't a jerk or anything that I can remember, but I didn't hurt anybody, but I didn't help as many people as I should have. And I feel like helping people is that's how you get ahead, is taking somebody with you, as those relationships that you build are going to come to fruition. They're going to give fruit down the line, you're going to go, oh yeah, that guy that I helped do this, he could probably help me with that next project over there. Hey, and then you tap shoulders, and you'd be surprised at how much better you get once you network with people and build relationships with people. I mean, here I am talking to David Eastman out there in the UK. Is it London? Is it London proper? Is that where you're at? Right in the big city?
Yep.
I mean,
North London.
What's it like being in the big city? And wait, you met the wife in California, is that right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, how did you convince her to head to the UK from sunny Southern California, no rain, and then you go, you know what? I miss Seattle, but I want it to be a little bit more foggy as well as rainy. Let me go to London. How did you convince this Southern California girl to come with you? I mean, besides being the handsome hunk that you are one handsome man.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Likewise, that's the magic of video Skype. Right? She's actually Italian, so she convinced me. She was getting her PhD at Caltech. You remember that show, Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
So she was one of those, and she was one of like 4 beautiful girls in the entire university. So she was like Penny / Sheldon, and so my band was playing at a function that she organized, where they would bring a keg of beer out into a field in the middle of all the laboratories, and to draw them out of the labs into the sunshine. Just come out into the sunshine, please. And she was always embarrassed because she always had to take half a keg back to the pub. Like she could never get enough of these guys out of their labs. So that's where I met her. She's from Northern Italy. We moved to Switzerland, and I just, there's my dog. I just love London. So and they speak English, so it's a lot more fun here. I mean, there's just so much going on. It's your own excuse if you're ever bored here.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, you're in a big city. You're in London, which me never having been, I liken it to New York. Is it huge, big buildings, hustle and bustle, people walking everywhere? Lots of.
Well, what's funny about London is that because England, UK is an island, and London is the biggest city, it's basically a combination of New York, DC, San Francisco, LA. Everything's in London. All the media, all the government, all the banking, So, like I said, 3 degrees of separation from the Rolling Stones and from probably the Prime Minister somehow. So, it's a small town in its own way, and you can walk across it in a couple hours. So, it's a fun place to live.
Well, that's a selling point in itself, being that close to Ron Wood and Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. Yeah, that guy.
That guy. Yeah, Uncle Mick. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, man! I mean, the music that's coming out of there, and you're part of that show. I mean, you're part of that scene now. Is with the Say Yes, Do Nothing, and I'm looking at the website, and let's start with Above the Fold. Yeah, I guess we can start talking about your band. We're talking about world things that are very interesting to me, but I know we're here to promote your band. Say Yes, Do Nothing. But Above the Fold on your website it's Yank. What is it? Was it Yank Rock? Yeah, London Yank Rock. What is Yank Rock? And where did that term come from?
I just thought it describes what we do, because I'm American. I play with a bunch of Brits and a Welsh guy. But what we do is American sounding music for the Brits. I mean, we do a little alt country. We play rock. A little bit of just straight up storytelling, Bob Dylan style. So for British people, it's kind of exotic. So that's why I call it London Yank Rock, because I think that in a sense we stand out a little bit.
That's fantastic. All right, for those once again, I'm looking at you on camera, and your face is starting to fall real far below. You're starting to look like Kilroy. I want to get you more centered, so that way the people that watch you on YouTube can see the. Yeah, there you go.
The Space Invaders. Yeah,
got to see the Space Invaders. I'm not that worried about you, David Eastman. No, I kid. Yeah. I kid. All right, so you wait a minute. Okay, you started in bands in the U.S., but that whole band, it would not move with you around the world as you're doing your travel. So you got to find blokes to play with
Yeah.
around the world. When you
Yeah.
started in your okay, what was the first thing that you started playing? I guess it back in high school. Was it in college, or did you get into it a little bit later? What and what do you play?
Yeah, I've always been a songwriter with the guitar. I played bass in Los Angeles, but now, yeah, I play a Telecaster rhythm guitar and do the singing and songwriting. And then the rest of the band, we have a lead guitar player. I also play harmonica, and then with bass and drums. So pretty straight ahead rock band.
I mean, but did you with the guitar and a harmonica and the singing?
Mm.
Or did you start out as a solo artist at bars and maybe coffee shops and stuff?
Yeah. Open mics. It's kind of a cool way to connect with people. You also find out whether or not you can keep people's attention for an entire song. So it's a good way to brush up your chops, connecting with people. I mean, you were talking about connecting. I think music is such a great way to connect, and you always get that little glint in someone's eye when they're kind of a similar spirit, and you catch that and make a new friend. By the end of the show.
No, it's universal, my man. I mean, you
Yeah.
have an idea in your head, and I'm jealous that you can take that idea, put it to paper. I don't know if you use paper, but the kids are using computers these days. But you put it down to paper. I'm going to keep using that, and it becomes a song, and you put it out to the world. You birth it, and it inspires other people. This is a power that you have that I don't have. And when did you figure out that you could actually write songs? What year was this? And who? When did you feel that you had that ability?
I think only really recently. I think I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and he talks a lot about the power of words and how you can reach an audience and feel the spirit of an audience, and when you can really connect with them. And I think that I started to learn the power of words, and when you put a phrase together, it's suddenly, and you put it with another phrase and you twist it. It can mean two or three things at the same time. There's a lot of that in the Old Testament. You can read it about three different ways, and poetry as well. So it's kind of fun it's not to be obtuse, but to try and say a couple things that about the same thing at the same time.
No, I mean, okay. So you said that was real recently. You wrote your first song when?
Oh, when I was like 12, right? About a redheaded girl.
Oh.
But
okay. So you were writing poetry and stuff back then, but
sort of. Yeah, I wouldn't call that poetry. I'd call that lovesick moaning. But yeah, no, London's great because you can see everybody in concert, and I saw Tom Petty before he died, and that really struck me because he also he has great songs, but he had a great band that all played together, almost like a Duke Ellington kind of band where everybody had their part and no one on top of each other. And that really struck me, is that the words can be supported by the beat and the music, and how do you structure that and arrange it. And so that's why I say I think I only recently started to understand songwriting, because I think that how do you create an overall arrangement around the words to make them work?
Well, being a musician songwriter, what do you write first, the music or the song, or is it one or the other?
I think now that I've started to figure it out, the words come as a song. The rhythm of the words. I mean, okay, just take an example. The rhythm of the words. That's an interesting phrase, right? Da 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 da. I mean, that's already a lyric, right? So, and that's already da 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 da. So then something you can either, you could either mimic that or you could turn it. So it seems like everything you say could be a lyric, if you actually think it's an interesting thing to say, if the words mean something. So I think that it's playful. Actually, the time I write most of the stuff is when I'm doing squats in the gym. I don't know why. I think it's going up and down to a beat. That's when I seem to come up with most of the lyrics. So you said, do I put them on paper? I actually don't. I put them like in a little text message to myself on the phone. So yeah, I'm with the young people now. Yep.
Well, David Eastman, I like that low key brag on that you squat. Okay. All right. He squats, everybody. He's an exerciser. How much you
Not
bench,
anymore.
man?
It's all done.
What is it all done? What do you mean? Yeah, I think of that with married guys that let themselves go, like myself. It's like, hey, the race is over. Stop running, man. You got the girl. Yeah, but no,
Yeah.
I like that. But you talk about your songwriting and that it becomes a melody, and I've heard when you were talking about that, saying the rhythm of words, even that could be a lyric in a line. I remember in True by ABC. Now, why do I find it hard to write the next line? That was the
Right.
next line. That was it.
Yeah, that's a great line.
That's it. I can't figure it out. Oh, there,
And
that's
it
the
works,
line.
right?
Yeah. The power of words and the ability to make them into melodies that that inspire. That song uh, is 30 plus years old, and I'm still remembering that line is my favorite line in the song. And it probably was a throwaway. I've never looked into it, but it's probably a line like, hey, the rhythm of words. And that could be I expect that to be in another David Eastman Say Yes, Do Nothing song coming up
Right.
soon. Yeah, but
you never know, though. He might have stayed up all night saying, why do I see it hard to find the right, why do I, he might have just been banging his head on the piano, so.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. You wrote that song to impress a girl way back when, and that's what we do. We try to impress girls. Okay. Us menses are doing everything we do is to impress girls, right? So,
Yeah.
but me want woman. No, okay. But after that, what was the song that you said? You know what? This one. Let me put it down. Let me record it and let me put it out to the world and see what people think about it. David Eastman, which one? When?
It's called Can't Trust Daddy. It's on the website on the recordings page, and it's about my father's experience with his own father and alcoholism in our family, and also how so much of those feelings are linked with music in our family, and how his father would get very drunk and the kids would scatter, and he would also play his trumpet and play music, and that anger, but also that energy that comes out when you're both drunk and playing music. I talk about myself. The last verses, at the end of the show, get out of the way, because I also feel that same rage when I'm playing that kind of music. So that was kind of the first, I think, song that was cohesive and about something personal.
Now that is what I was talking about. As you have a thought, it's pain, it's something, it's an experience that happened to you, and you turn it into something that helps you to get that feeling out, and you put it out to the world. I mean, and it really doesn't matter. From what I'm guessing, it doesn't matter what the response is. Is you had to get that feeling out of you somehow. Some people write, do a journal. Some people write a book about it. Your power is the song, making a song about it. How did it feel? How did it make you feel putting that out there?
Well, it feels good, especially when I connect with people who appreciate that I told the story. It makes people uncomfortable, so there is always a pause afterwards. It's a little bit like farting in church every time I play it. But the rhythm of it is it's a folk punk song, so it's meant to have that punk energy to it, which makes me feel that kind of energy and anger. So I'm also reliving my own experiences with my father, but imagining that feeling that he must have been experiencing as well. So it puts me kind of in an imaginary state.
Okay, so, the trouble he had trouble with alcohol, and and did you have any personal experience with that, or was that
so? If you live in the Soviet Union, you're going to have a personal experience with that. Yeah, I spent 2 years knocking down vodka, about 2 bottles a night towards the end of it, and when I came back to America, people were surprised. But it kind of faded. I found other things to do. But it's again, it's a kind of an hallucinatory state, an imaginary state that can keep you busy. I think I stopped doing it because every time I got drunk, I would try to fix things. So I'd wake up and my battery charger would be completely dismantled and I wouldn't know how to put it back together, or, I'd find something else. It's just really annoying. So I just got tired of having to fix things the next morning, whether socially or, my battery charger. So I think that I just wasn't interested anymore.
So before the Soviet Union, you didn't have any real experience with alcohol? Was that where it all?
Not to that extent, man. I mean, seriously, like the very first wedding I went to in Kazakhstan, my head was on the table and someone kind of like lifted me up by the hair and said, "You shouldn't drink so much." Like, everyone was doing shots with me because they wanted to toast the American, It's pretty hard to get away from. So that was storming the beaches for vodka. And vodka is a tricky, I don't know if you drink, but vodka is a very tricky liquor because you don't realize you're drunk until you are.
Well,
and
yeah, I have the gene in my family. My grandfather was an alcoholic. I didn't have much experience with that. I was, young, but my mother was an alcoholic and a drug addict, and I could say that because she actually came on the podcast and said, "I want to tell my story," and I said, "Really?" And my eyes bugged listening to her story, because you're not supposed to know what your mom did before you were born, and even while she was trying to raise you as a single mama, for the most part. But she had some problems. So how did I rebel? I never drank. I had a half a beer once and I passed out. So I guess I'm no good at it. And the first time she offered me a hit of a marijuana, I said, "No, that's okay." So I guess I rebelled against her. So thanks, Mom, for that. I appreciate it. You taught me the right way by doing the wrong thing. But
Interesting.
I know that the gene is in my family, so I never had the need for it. And I spent a lot of time in bars. I DJ all the time in bars. Last night I was in a bar watching people drink and, for the most part, have a good time. And then the one guy has to be dragged out by his two friends. So there's different. The spectrum is different. I mean, but would you consider yourself an alcoholic, or was that, hey, vodka is like water in Russia?
I think it was something I did, and now I don't really, like a childhood thing. Your GI Joe toys are not really that interesting anymore. At the time, you're really into it, but no, I don't think so. I think that I probably have tendencies to try and relax with that sort of thing, or have a craving that alcoholics have. But I mean, God bless you, because to not have to go through that and not have to experience some of the heartache that can go along with drinking too much, or the embarrassment. I mean, that's just fantastic. And I mean, Bruce Springsteen was the same way. He never drank.
Okay. And there's a reason I love the boss, man, and not just because,
right?
not just because his middle name has an O. I think that's why they call him the boss. I found that fact out, and I thought, oh, he's the boss because he's the best. Bruce O. Springsteen. Oh, childhood ruined. No, but no,
right.
and I feel like you're with most of the gang. When people drink, when they're young, they might try to push the limits, but then after a while, you figure out, I don't need all this stuff. If you have a couple drinks at night, a wine, hey, no big deal. But yeah, most people can get through it without AA or any kind of help like that. But hey, I have to live vicariously through you and my wife as well. She drank when I met her at a club, at a bar, and she was dancing there, and I go, "Wow, this is a beautiful girl there. Let me go find her. And let me go talk to her." And she was having some drinks, but I never drank. I just happened to be in the bar because I like music, and I like being the DJ, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you like music, man, and you can make music. That's something. I have 3 guitars in this house, a full keyboard, piano, harmonicas, couple harmonicas, and I cannot play songs on them. I know a few chords here and there. I can noodle a little bit, but nothing that I could take on stage. I'm jealous of you David Eastman. I'm jealous of
Thank
you.
you. I'm jealous of people who are, much more talented. You know what I'm jealous of, to be honest, is people who go to music school and really learn how to play and understand the structure behind it and the science behind it. Music theory is fascinating, what you can do and how things interrelate. So I'm jealous too. I mean, I wish I could be like that, go back in time and do that all over again.
No music lessons, David Eastman? None?
Some, but yeah, no. Mostly it was sitting with Beatles guitar books on the floor.
Books. Oh, Grandpa, tell me what's a book. I've talked to musicians that are much, much younger than me, and here on this podcast, and they talk about tabs, and they can go to YouTube and find the guitar tabs and learn lessons there. I think YouTube is a great teacher. And hey, that's another thing that's happening in this time is schools are closing because there's no interest. I went to Russellville here in Arkansas, and there's a Russellville Music Academy that's been there for years, 50 years or so, and now the building says leasing. Now leasing, it's completely closed. After 50 years of teaching kids music, of bringing music to the community, closed. I mean, I'm guessing he's doing lessons in his house, but he had this place where people can come and learn music. But you say you never really took to lessons. I mean, how far did you go in music lessons?
Like in school, I learned the stand-up bass in orchestra class. So I had one of those big bass fiddles, and taller than us. And when we'd carry them to the orchestra pit, they'd all rattle because we used to throw our candy wrappers inside the F hole. So
what's the hole called?
The F hole, the little thing that goes like that.
Yeah, it's called an F hole.
Yeah.
Okay, hey, I'm learning new things.
This is before I knew it was funny. I didn't realize that's funny, but yeah, F hole.
No, I mean, okay, yes, there's humor to it, but I had no idea it was called an F hole. That's fantastic, and I love the stand-up bass. I mean, I watched the video for Every Breath You Take, and Sting is out there playing on his stand-up bass, and wow,
such a great sound.
Oh, for sure. Hey, you're living down the street from Sting, isn't he? Isn't he there in the UK somewhere? No.
He is literally down the street. Yes.
What? Come on, man.
Yeah.
You can't. You have all these fantastic musicians. Okay. Okay. Let's. I don't want to take all day for you. It's all your time. I mean, I'm enjoying talking to you. But okay, let's fast forward to just before now. I mean, you've been living in the UK since when?
6 years, 6 or 7. Yeah.
6 or 7 years. What's the first thing that you did in the UK? You went there for a job, for one of those humanitarian jobs, and if you want, you can give them a shout out as well. That's fine.
Yeah, it's called International Medical Corps. So it's actually an American-based organization, and you can find them on internationalmedicalcorps.org. So good organization. First thing I did was talk to everybody because I had been speaking French in Switzerland for 6 years, and just to talk to strangers, like as I bought a ticket for the train or go to a movie theater, I would chat everyone's ear off. I was so happy, and I was the friendliest guy in the world. And the nice thing is that actually people here, even in London, they will also chat. They'll chat with strangers. It's kind of with a very dry sense of humor. So I was just in heaven. And then the next thing I did was start trying to play music as soon as I got back to London, because Switzerland, let's just say there's not much of a scene going on there. So.
Well, before you got to London, were you any kind of an Anglophile? Did you watch any of the British movies or shows?
Oh, totally. Right? I mean, back in the day, watching PBS with the Fawlty Towers and Monty Python, and that was England, right? Or Benny Hill,
Okay, all right. Are there any of those chases to yakety sax running through the streets of London? Is that happening? That's my whole That's my whole childhood with England as well. And Doctor Who, Tom Baker. He's my doctor.
Doctor Who, right?
Yeah, for sure. With the scarf, I had to have one of those scarves.
Okay, I got to ask you this okay, so you know what I'm talking about. You know Blondie, the band Blondie?
Sure, yeah. Debbie Harry.
Right? That one song that goes, ooh. There's this one part in that song that sounds just like the Doctor Who theme. It's Sounds just like when the opening when they're going down that tunnel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, there's only so
It was
many
a-
beats you can do with music, man. So I mean, I guess you're going to have some things that sound alike. I know that musicians from the '60s were suing musicians from the '80s and '90s. Well, some of them were actually stealing stuff, but some of them were just, hey, it just happened to sound like that. The funniest one was John Fogerty getting sued by Creedence for sounding too much like himself. Hello.
I saw him in concert too. He does not sound like himself anymore. He can't sing anymore. It's really sad,
isn't it? Though
he croaked it. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, once you you get to a certain age, sometimes the pipes just don't work anymore, and it's sad when it deteriorates. But what you have to do is hold those recordings that you made, those that 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 you've given to the world, and just remember those good times. I know that there's a lot of musicians, a lot of singers that have blown their pipes out, and they're trying to get back in the road, get back in the game, because a creator's got to create, right? That's what you got to do. I suspect you're going to do this until they put you in a box, forever and ever.
Or it may put me in a box. Yeah, it drives you a bit crazy to always be creative.
I mean, we're talking about the Stones. They're still going. The Steel Wheelchairs tour back in the '80s was supposed to be their last tour. That was it, man. Steel Wheelchairs. Oh, these guys are in their 60s. And here, how old's Mick now? Got to be close to 80.
Mid to late 70s, yeah. I mean, but remarkable, though. I saw him 2 years ago. And when you saw his silhouette against the big screen, you couldn't tell that he wasn't 20. I mean, the way he was dancing and moving, he's a force of nature.
And then Keith Richards, he's a grandpa writing children's books now. I mean, hey, you grow, you develop.
Yeah.
What other interests are you into? I mean, are you? I mean, okay, you do humanitarian stuff during the day. By day, superhero. By night, rock star.
Musician.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so before in this 6 years, when you were talking to everybody, did you do? Were you talking to other musicians? Were you trying to go to clubs and book gigs? I mean, how did you get together with these fellas and do the Say Yes, Do Nothing band? Was there was there other bands between that, or was this the band that you finally formed together when you got to England, to London?
No, I just met these guys through other guys, and we kind of found each other. The last person to join was our guitar player. He's a music teacher from Wales, and he's there's my dog. That's Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Jack is also Italian. We brought him over from Italy. And the way that you work being in a band in London is you don't drive up in a van, unload all your gear, and set up on the stage. They have all the gear on the stage for you. And
I want to go to there.
Yeah, it's great. You would love it because the whole PA, most of the back line with the amps, the drum kit, it's there. And what they do is they have 5 bands a night. So you'll bring your guitars and your pedals and what you might personally need, but you just basically hook into the amps that they have, which are usually beaten to death. And you play for your 25, 30-minute set, get off, next guys come on for 30 minutes, next guys come on for 30 minutes.
Well, that's got to be great for the audience.
It's nice.
That's great. Got to be great for the audience that they get different bands and different flavors of music. Is it all rock bands one night, or is it different genres of music in these places?
I think they try to put similar genres together because they want the crowd to stay. And different clubs will have different kind of scenes as well. I mean, obviously, electronica is so much more big here in Europe, but there's a big, kind of voodoo rock scene. People love the country sound. It's exotic for them, so put on a cowboy hat and they're just, their eyes open. So we've been playing that card quite a bit.
Well, David Eastman, I do notice that you wear a cowboy hat as your part of your persona. Yeah, is that your rock wear? Whenever I do a party, I put my bow tie on, my suspenders, my vest, and I feel, I get my uniform on and I become, an entertainer. When you put your hat on, does that change your mood?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yank
Yeah.
rock, man.
Yeah, and I have to be really careful because some things that are funny to Americans aren't funny to Brits.
Oh.
We were playing a really crappy club once, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I said, there's no backstage here, so I had to change my pants under the table. I said, I bet Hitler always had a dressing room, and just dead silence. Just
you can't even mention the guy's name. I think the other day I was talking about somebody was giving me a salute, like this, and I remember I was looking at pictures. They were I think they were going up for a high five, and but they kind of did that, and I went, back in the 20s, the kids used to salute like that until that guy Hitler ruined everything. And he also ruined the little mustache, amongst other things. He was a very unsportsmanlike fellow. Yeah, he wasn't a nice guy. I think that guy was a jerk. But I guess the mere mention of his name is kind of like the N-word.
Not fun.
No.
Yeah, when he obliterated half of their city, it's not funny.
Yeah, yeah. I'm watching a history show right now on Netflix about they're going over the Blitzkrieg, and it's just horrific to watch that over and over. Kind of like
World War II in color, right?
What's that?
World War II in color?
I think it was the one that oh my goodness, the Natural Born Killers director. He has something out there, world history, something. But anyway, it's pretty good so far. I mean, you can see that it's skewed to his mind, his vision, but it's in documentary form. So I'm finding it interesting. I'm trying to make my 14-year-old daughter watch it. She's like, video games.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, it's so contextual, right? I mean, if you don't know the story of World War II, kind of the narrative, I was doing that with my daughter, and finally I got her to sit down and watch Casablanca because now she kind of understood what the context of that movie was and why it mattered,
Well, I mean, it's odd. I was her hero until about I guess maybe 12, and then I don't like you, Dad. She never says I don't like you, but it's I'm going in for a hug or something. Not today, not right now. But I know with past experience that by the time she's in her 20s, she will love me again. It's good. I have to get through this teenage part. So I'm guessing you have some kids there.
I also have a 13, almost 14-year-old daughter.
Love you, kind of.
Yeah, no, she still likes me. I mean, I'm boring and annoying, but I think in general she likes me.
Well, cool.
We still have conversations. She still needs me.
Well, that's good, man. That's good.
But one guy told me the best thing a kid can do about a father is to take a father for granted. And I thought that's really good. Like to just be taken for granted and have a kid know that you're there for them when they need you, but the rest of the time, So.
Oh, I feel good for her. But I mean, she has her mother there, and she loves her mother to no end. That's her confidant, her pride. But I tell her all the time, you have two parents living in the house together that have been that have loved each other since before you were born and still love each other. That's something I didn't have. I had several stepfathers, and my mom, for the most part, she was a single mom, with a few guys sprinkled in here and there to make, to keep her comfortable. But mostly it was all her. So, I didn't have the two parent system, but she does. And I'm glad. I'm good. Yeah.
So why do you do this podcast? What drove you to start this?
I was talking to here, low key brag. I was at the gym. I was at the Planet Fitness, and there was a guy outside spinning a sign, for the Planet Fitness to the grand opening. And I had my phone with me, and I said, hey, you know what? I had this radio station, radiowhat.com, and I will be playing your music on it real soon. Radiowhat.com, at least the internet radio. And I said, how about the station, what makes you famous? So you'll be a little bit more famous than you were.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Okay.
So I talked to the guy outside. It turns out he had other interests. He didn't want to just be the guy at the gym spinning the sign. He's also a comedian. And this is back in 2015, and I had like maybe a little 5-minute conversation, a video of him talking about his comedy and stuff. So I threw that up with the hashtag "What makes you famous," and I said, "Man, that made me feel good because I've been doing radio since '86, and all I have when I talk to bands sitting in front of me that came through Miami, and there were a lot of them. So I do have a lot of those experiences that you have of bands coming in and talking to them and sharing some of their experiences, but they maybe had 15 minutes to give some sound bites, including commercials. So really, in total, you get 10 minutes to talk to these people. So you really don't know about them. But I enjoyed that little feeling. And now with long form conversations, I've been listening to podcasts as well. And I said, you know what? I got microphones, I got a mixing board, I got a camera. Let's do this. And I did it. I guess last February, the 2019, I did my first real long form conversation. I went over to a local music store called Palmer Music just down the street here in Conway, Arkansas, and I talked to Ryan Hinman, guitarist, and he also fixes guitars back in the back, and that was the first one, and it's skyrocketed. It's taken off since then. People have been asking me. I mean, I ask almost everybody that I interact with on social media, and I'm so happy that people are responding, such as yourself, David Eastman, and you're telling me your story. Everybody's got a story, man. Everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, as we're winding down, I guess. I mean, were you doing gigs there in primarily in London or all over England? What's the gigging there in London?
London and outside of London. Yeah, we haven't broken out yet. Mostly because I still don't know how to drive here. I rode a bicycle once here, and I took a left straight into an oncoming car. So I realized I probably shouldn't be driving here. But no, it's there's so many clubs and openings every night. The challenge is getting people, to come on a work night. So you got to pick your battles carefully. Get into the bigger places, promote.
So how long were you practicing with Say Yes, Do Nothing before you said, "Hey, we're good enough. Let's go gig"?
Well, we were hungry, so I think about a month.
So you were all seasoned musicians then before that?
Yeah. Everybody kind of knew what to do, where to, how to show up, how to be on time. We don't have any people who show up drunk or late. It's a good bunch of guys. So we just true. It makes all the difference. There's a difference between being artistic and just being a play.
Yeah, okay, but are you playing covers, or are you doing a lot of your original music, or is it 50-50, 80-20?
All originals. We might do like one cover, like a Tom Petty cover or Yardbirds or something. But no, it's a whole set of songs that I wrote.
And this is that half hour in, half hour in and get out. Man, that's an interesting way to run the shows.
Right.
It's not just one band all night long. Where I think this is what an interesting model. What a great idea.
Right.
I think we should start doing this over here in the States more often, because you have one band that you pay and they're expected to have a catalog of 200 songs or so. And every time somebody screams out a song, "Free Bird," you're supposed to know how to play it. But do you guys have how many in your catalog right now?
Oh, I mean, we've got an hour's worth of material, but you got to pack it in for 5 minutes of trying to get the audience going. So it's meant to be pretty high energy.
That's excellent, man. That's excellent.
Yeah.
And
if there ain't no beat, then no point.
And Say Yes, Do Nothing has been together as a band for how long?
About a year and a half. Yeah, and we're signing on with an artist management company now. We'll be putting out singles.
What?
And things are on the up and up. I mean, talking to people like you, things are going really well.
Well, good, man. Yeah. I'm on the ground floor. I can see nothing but going up, man. We're We're ready. Yay! Okay. So, how many songs do you have out there right now? Original?
We don't have any officially yet.
Nothing out there.
I'm going to go and record this Friday in the studio. As you can imagine, recording in a studio during COVID's not easy. because you can't have a whole band in the room at the same time. So we're going to work through the logistics of that. So, but yeah, it's a great company. I think we'll be moving forward quickly. I wanted to ask you, because it seems like with COVID, it seems like now people are starting to listen to music they might not have because they're sitting on the internet longer. They're a little bit, their eyes are, they're more willing to hear stuff they might not have wanted to spend the time for. Do you think that's true? Do you think there's some good stuff coming out?
I absolutely think that's true, man. I'm getting more and more hits on my YouTube
Yeah.
videos, so and my and my audio for that matter. And funny,
Yeah.
you're talking about not being in the same room. I'm hearing that Hollywood is starting to open back up productions, and they're doing all the single shots first.
Right.
All the single shots. The editor is going to be mad, just a mad, crazy mad. I got to edit all the single shots, and then all the group shots can only be done if everybody gets tested, for antibodies and what have you. Oh, it's a whole thing, and no kissing scenes. How are the soap operas going to be getting away with no kissing scenes? You know what I'm hearing? The soap operas are using dummies. They're using like blow-up dolls
with wigs.
Yes, like a dummy with a wig, and that's what I'm having the makeout scene. Right. Or they're able to bring their spouses in to do as stunt doubles.
Really?
Yeah, put a wig on in the same suit. Oh yeah, I'm making out with this girl. It's your wife, it's your husband, it's your significant other.
Funny.
So yeah, the production is crazy. So I can imagine for a musician, you're doing laying all your vocals down, maybe the guitar, some bass, whatever, and then the other guy has to come in. We got to disinfect everything. I don't know. I'm no scientist. I was an EMT for a while, so I know just enough medicine to hurt myself. I know nothing. But wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Is disinfectant working? If it makes you feel better, I don't know. I'm an old fart. I don't care much for what's going on with the COVID. I'm not scared of it, but I am vigilant. Hugs, maybe not. Handshake, maybe a fist bump. Jazz hands. How you doing? Jazz hands. I'm doing good. Jazz hands.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your view? I mean, mask, no mask, hugs, no hugs.
I would just say being careful. So whatever is going to prevent transmission that a person wants to do, that's my motto. I'm really careful about going out, choosing when I'm going to go out, where I'm going to go. I'm really conservative also because I'm in a really crowded city where normally you're packed into someone's armpit on a train. So I keep my distance as much as I can,
Well, David Eastman, I take your advice more than anybody on the streets because you're working with medical professionals in your job, in your day job. So you probably get advice from them all the time. And I remember in the beginning not wanting to take a mask away from a medical professional, and the mask to me, wearing it all day long, it's going to get dirty. You're going to be touching it. You're going to be adjusting it. But there's so much
especially
to that.
In the heat.
Yeah, and as taking it back to the beginning, the confirmation bias. You can look at social media. One guy's going to tell you mask yes, one guy's going to tell you mask no, open, don't open. Just be careful out there, people. And good words of advice. Be careful out there. Don't go out unless you really, really need to. I guess you're saving it for the stores and essential items that you have to go to the groceries, that kind of thing. All right then.
Yeah, beer.
Yes, that beer. That's another one. Beer was essential. Alcohol, the liquor stores were essential, but AA meetings not essential.
Ironic.
What? These people are trying to get help, and
Can you imagine?
Oh my goodness! But bureaucracy, and there's people that we've elected that are trying to make decisions, trying to do good things. I hope they're trying to do good things, but I know people in office. I know people in office. Some of them are trying to do good things, but once they get into office, they find that they're held. They cannot do those good things. You want to do this? Well, you got to do that you don't want to do. It's
Yeah.
it hurts. It hurts. But
People.
how's the? I mean, how is it in the UK politically? I mean, other than that,
Well, it's pretty interesting because the prime minister had COVID and he almost died.
yeah, Boris
So
Johnson. Yeah,
yeah, so you kind of get a sense he probably takes it pretty seriously, from first-hand experience. On the other hand, they're also aiming for Brexit, by the end of the year, and the economic impact of that on top of COVID. I imagine that's a pretty tough call. And how do you balance those two things? So yeah, politically, and because of Brexit, a lot of people don't trust the government and what they say. So if they tell you to stay home because of COVID, some people, or not stay home and go back to work, some people don't trust that advice. So I think we're in a bit of a gray area, and that can be dangerous when people don't know what to believe.
so you're working from home with your day job.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, I'm on the mic all day as well, calling all of these countries. That thank God for Skype. Otherwise these guys would be pretty. They're locked into their countries. The flights are closed. They can't get out. We've had people stuck in their places for months. They can't leave.
I hear some of the airlines are going back to full capacity. How's that going to work?
Oh my. Yeah.
It's I mean, we could talk for hours about whatever's going on in the world, for sure. I mean, and I probably will talk for hours on end about what's going on in the world. I do enjoy speaking to people and finding out your views on things and poking through your gray matter. Because I know I can't be the only one. I know there's people on the left and people on the far right. It's most people live right down here, right down the middle. We're.
Well, I honestly think what you do is really important, because connecting with people who are on the ground, whatever on the ground is, whether it's twirling a sign outside of a store, or they know their reality and they can speak to what's really happening around them. And I think that's the best way to gather facts and to know what's happening, not the media or what they summarize. I think real people telling what's happening in their neighborhood or in their families, I think that's how you know the truth, I think.
Well, David Eastman, man, I've learned a little bit about you. My listeners have learned a little bit about you. I'm enjoying myself. And,
Me too.
I guess let the people know how to get a hold of you and the band, that way when things start to open up, and I'm guessing that you're not able to do gigs right now.
No.
I heard it in your voice.
Yeah,
no.
We had to cancel so many.
Oh my goodness. When they started canceling things. My head.
Painful.
But how do they get a hold of you? At least if and when, I guess, when you start putting your original music out, where they can buy it. I know you have a website.
So,
tell the people about it.
We got our website, sayyesdonothing.com. Our songs are on there. You can download the songs for free. We've got songs on Spotify under our name, Say Yes, Do Nothing. We're on SoundCloud. We're all over Twitter. I love Twitter. Twitter's been good to me. That's how I met you. That's Say Yes, Do Nothing one. And my advice for anybody who's in a band trying to get known, Twitter's been fantastic. Just the way you can connect and people share each other's music and listen to each other. That's been great. But sayyesdonothing.com to hear more music, watch some videos, read the lyrics, know what I'm trying to enunciate.
Excellent, man. Say Yes, Do Nothing. David Eastman. I guess you're the lead singer and the songwriter.
Yes, sir.
And you got
all true stories.
You got some good-looking boys in the background as well, man. They're a good-looking group of menses. Say yes,
that's Mike, Dan, and Simon.
Mike, Dan, and Simon. All right. Well, thank you so much, David Eastman.
Thank you. This has been a pleasure.
Man, I don't want this to be the last conversation either. I want to hear more.
I hope not.
As time progresses, I want you to come back on. Maybe a couple of the other fellows will join in as well as we break out of our quarantines. But usually I finish these things off with last words for the people. It could be something that you've heard over your lifetime. Somebody gave you some words of advice, or it could just be whatever pops into your head at this particular moment in time. David Eastman, last words for the people.
My mom always said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Well, there you have it, party people. David Eastman of Say Yes, Do Nothing. the Say Yes Do Nothing band. SayYesDoNothing.com. That's the website you need to go to if you want to find out more about him and the rest of the fellas in the band. Fantastic. And I knew there was more to that story. Once you get to a certain age, you've had some experiences. Man, that guy's been all over the world helping people. That's what we're supposed to be doing, helping people. If you can't make it all over the world, just help the people that are in your own backyard, that live right next to you. Hey, if your neighbor needs a ride someplace, give them a ride. If they need help getting their groceries in, help them get their groceries in. Do the small things that you can do. I know I saw my neighbor walking down the street and I was like, what are you doing? Are you exercising? No? Jump in the car. Let's go. I'll take them the rest of the way wherever they need to go. Sheesh. If you have a couple of minutes, spare some time. Take action in your community. Think locally, and it resonates globally. It's fantastic, man. And this guy, David Eastman, he's not just thinking locally. He goes where the people need help. That's what you're supposed to do. If you have the means, if you have the time, if you have the desire, if you have the drive, do it, man. Be like David Eastman. And then on top of that, after he's done with his day job, working hard, saving the world, then he goes off and he gets together with three other fellas and goes and saves the world that way by inspiring people with music, with his songs, his songwriting. Very talented man. It's good to know David Eastman. It's good to know that there's David Eastmans in the world that are making a difference. I appreciate that. I know I didn't dig too deep into his life story, but hey, man, you can say whatever you want on your podcast, whatever story you want to tell. And I know I could have talked to him for hours and hours and hours, but I'm mindful of people's time. I mean, we can go 3 hours. I've done a podcast here with 3 hours and 45. That was over 3 hours. Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to limit them to hour and a half. That's pretty good. I mean, but if you want to go, we'll go. I could have talked to David Eastman for a long time, is what I'm trying to say. All right, party people, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. If you'd like to tell your story, yes, you. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.